Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we, let's just say, dissect those corporate filings that most people would rather use as wallpaper. Today we are diving into Rithm Acquisition Corp's latest quarterly report, and trust me, there is more than meets the eye with this one. I'm talking about numbers that might make you question everything you thought you knew about blank check companies. So what's the big story? This is a blank check company, meaning they exist to find another company to merge with. We are looking at their performance as they try to make that happen. Before we get started, if you're into getting straight insights from these kinds of documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below. First off, let's break down what Rithm Acquisition Corp actually is. They're what you call a blank check company, which is a fancy way of saying they're a shell company created to find another company to merge with. Think of it like corporate speed dating, but with potentially millions of dollars on the line. As of March of this year, they haven't actually done anything besides try to find a company to merge with. This is important because until that merger happens, they aren't really making any money from operations. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the financials. As of March, they've got just over $1 million in cash. That may sound like a lot to you and me, but for a company trying to pull off a multi-million-dollar merger, that's a pretty small war chest. This is the actual money they use for operating expenses outside of the money that's put into a trust. Speaking of big numbers, they do have a trust account holding about $230 million. This is the big pot of money that will be used to fund the merger once they find a target. However, they can't just use this money willy-nilly. It's held in a trust, meaning there are rules and regulations about how it can be used, primarily for the business combination. This helps give some security in case they fail to deliver on their promise to merge. Now, where is all that million going? For the 3 months ending in March, they spent about $130,000 on general and administrative expenses, and for the entire period since they started, it's about $106,000. Things like office space paying the CEO, legal costs, and just the general cost of running the business, which does not sound that big when you think that they are just waiting to merge. Here's a bright spot. They did make about $810,000 in interest from the money sitting in that trust account. So while they're waiting to find a merger partner, at least their money is making a little more money. It also helps offset some of those administrative costs and contributed to an overall profit. This all means that for the quarter, their basic and diluted net income per share was about 5 cents. Now that might not sound like much, but remember this is a blank check company. Their main goal right now isn't to make huge profits, but to find a good merger target. But hey, making profits on just interest while doing nothing is still good in the long run. Here's a key point to understand about these blank check companies. Class A ordinary shares subject to possible redemption, $230 and $810, $111. The money in the trust account really belongs to the investors who bought the shares in the IPO. If they don't like the merger target that Rithm finds, they can redeem their shares and get their money back. This is a crucial factor to watch because if too many investors redeem their shares, Rithm might not have enough money left to actually complete the merger. There are some non-cash investing and financing activities. These are costs that didn't involve actual cash changing hands but still affect the company's finances. One of the bigger ones is the deferred underwriting fee payable of over $8 million. This is money they owe to the banks that helped them go public, but they don't have to pay it unless they actually complete a merger. It is still important since it will reduce the cash on hand should they merge. Let's talk about the commitments and contingencies. The registration rights that they promise could be tricky and costly. The holders of the founder, shares and private placement units are entitled to make up to 3 demands, excluding short form demands that the company register such securities. The company will bear the expenses incurred in connection with the filing of any such registration statements. If they keep requesting, it may cost a lot for the company. It's also worth noting that they're still an emerging growth company, which means they get some breaks on certain regulations and reporting requirements. While this makes things easier for the company, it also means less transparency for investors. Another detail is that the shareholders can vote, but not all shares are created equal. Prior to the initial business combination, only holders of the founder shares will have the right to vote on the appointment of directors. The public have no say on who runs it until after the merger, so in effect, only the person who created the SPAC has the decision. The filing also describes net income per ordinary share. The denominator for this calculation, in other words, the number on the bottom, is the number of publicly outstanding shares. Since we are mostly interested in financials, and they do provide some, it makes the picture more clear. We get into some number crunching around the fair value of their warrants using something called a Monte Carlo simulation model. Basically, this is a fancy way of trying to estimate the value of these financial instruments based on a bunch of assumptions about the future. Finally, this firm only has one reportable business segment, finding an entity to merge with. Therefore, we understand more about whether or not the company does their operations efficiently and if they take it seriously. So what's my take on Rithm Acquisition Corp? Well, it's a mixed bag. The company does have a solid amount of cash in its trust account, but is burning through the rest. Also, remember that it's not generating a revenue. While the interest income from the trust helps, it isn't a long-term solution. The ticking clock and the redemption risk are definitely things to keep in mind, and they make it more expensive. There are many potential hazards while seeking a company to merge. Alright, that's our breakdown of Rithm Acquisition Corp's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. And don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.